Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call this second budget work session to order on May 17th of 2022. Mr. Allen, if you want to kind of pick up where we left off after last.
Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, I gave a high-level overview of last week's workshop. Workshop number 1 was a pretty high-level overview, and now we are ready to delve into each of the departments of the general fund, beginning on page 28 with administration. And if the board would like to, we can just go page by page and see any issues or any problems or any questions we can answer. So page 28 is administration. Your legal fees are in here, your audit fees, a lot of HR functions in here. Pretty basic. No new people. So those bullet points on page 28 are typically the highlights of any major changes or any major issues. When the board's ready, no question, we can go to page 30, animal control. And again, the next budget workshop will be next Tuesday, May 24th, at 4:30 in this room. So there is still room for discussions and questions. In animal control, we're requesting a new full-time animal control officer to satisfy service demands. That's the only large change in animal control. County's getting more populated, more population, meaning more service requests. Just like everybody's bringing a dog and cat with them. And pot-bellied pigs and all kinds of things. If the board says animal control, we can go to my favorite department, Board of Commissioners.
So animal control itself, is this from last year? What is it from last year? Compared to
The 216 to the 280.
There was something that came up that I was looking at as far as what their expenditures compared with what they were requesting. They said what they spent or needed to do.
Now, all the recommended reductions are on page. Looks like that's a 29% increase from last year. The reduction began on page 19, and when it comes to animal control, nothing was cut. So, as requested. Again, there's a 5.5% COLA in here for all employees, a 1% longevity, healthcare, enhanced retirement benefits. That's going to drive up these costs. And gasoline and diesel, that's a marked increase from last year. And the Board of Commissioners, that's just the status quo. Nothing really changed there. But you'll see a marked increase in the regular employee salary because of the state of Georgia mandating a $5,000 COLA for all elected officials. So that's what drove that up. Those pesky state mandates. And page 34 is Board of Elections and Registration. Next fiscal year, only one election is going to occur, and that's a general election in November and a possible runoff in December. So just with one election next year. Page 36 is Board of Equalization. It's just a very small board. They meet periodically. Not much changes there at all.
I don't think we asked for any changes.
You see, Board of Equalization, they hear taxpayer appeals from assessments made by the Board of Tax Assessors. Is that going to increase this year? I think so.
They're about $350 off.
Are there $100 per meeting? So,
No, the Board of Equalization is $50 per meeting.
really? But I have here 100.
Hey, we'll take it.
It's been 100 for several years. I
Has it? Is it 100?
think we changed it a couple years ago.
Very short change.
I'll have to check on that. I know the Board of Assessors is 100.
Right, and everybody wanted to be equal a couple years ago.
Okay.
So, my records say $100 per meeting. It's
Okay,
been-
I'll check
It's
on
been this way for several years.
last check request.
Okay. So the Board of Equalization may get a lot of business when the assessments come out later this month. And you heard from the previous meeting, the chief appraiser said, assessed values are going to go up an average of, 5 or 6 or 7%. That's on average. Some will be below that, some will be above that. Page 38, Clerk of Superior Court. No changes from last year.
Is there any questions? If not, I do want to make a comment. Short, sweet comment.
Oh, yeah,
Okay. Y'all are so quiet. Okay, my first thing is, because y'all graciously, renew my contract each year to where I get to keep my authority money, well, I've done some awesome projects. And I know I've invited people by to watch or look. No one comes by. So anyway, I brought a book to show y'all. And this book is of World War I BD-214s. This is a fireproof, waterproof book. And I've got 2 or 3 of these in the office. But it's preserved history. Goes back to the early 1900s. So I just want to show that to y'all. So we are doing stuff in our office. We're preserving the history, and it's strictly coming out of copy money from my real estate website. So so no cost to the taxpayers. All right. Yes. And then also, I also wanted to mention that the elected officials sent y'all a letter back in March, and we asked to be included in the county COLAs. I did reach out to other officers in the state. I only heard back from 4 counties, but those counties do give their elected officials the county COLA the same time the county employees get their COLA. So we would also be asking for a 5.5% COLA.
Do you remember which counties those were?
I know one off the top of my head is Columbia, but Columbia has an agreement. Her response is we get the higher of the 2, meaning the state COLA or the county COLA. And so that's Columbia County. Jones is one, Houston is one, and Gordon. So those are the ones I heard back from. So we do ask that we be included on the county COLAs from here going forward. Anything? Mike, comments?
No, I totally agree. The inflation rate for this year is over 6%. And we've never gotten a COLA from the county. And
What's your state COLA this year?
we
We did not get a
we didn't get a
COLA.
COLA. We didn't get a COLA this year.
We won't get the COLA this year, but we get that $5,000
Next
one
year.
time.
Next year.
Right, starting January.
We don't get anything this year.
But yeah.
And I think we would agree that the Columbia County model would probably make the most sense. It's just in years where there's a gap. If you remember the old salary matrices where you had to sit there and compute what years, and there were several years where there was no COLA that was included in the state merit increase. And so that was a way to combat years like what the sheriff says here, where there's absolutely no increase, but yet 6, I think, is probably fairly conservative. Some of them said 8% on the inflation rate. So,
I just looked it up. It was 6.8, something like that.
Yeah, and that's one of those 8.3.
So anywho, we would like to ask y'all to please consider that. Put it in the budget.
I'm just trying to make it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your reasonable.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And then page 40 is community center. The highlights are a new full-time employee program coordinator to assist in operating the community center, various classes with instructions, $40,000 for a new exterior playground center, $500,000 to replace the aged dehumidification system. And I think Ashley would come up here and talk about the $50,000 for the basketball goal winch to move that money to other more needed spaces.
The one thing I did want to change in the budget was, like Randy said, taking the money that was put in there for electric basketball goal winches. I feel like that's not a necessity for this next year, maybe another year or two. It's more of a nicety I want. I'd like to move that money, take it and split it to repairs and maintenance equipment, and raise that from $4,000 to $25,000. And repairs and maintenance building, raise that amount from 28 to 50. And that's just taking that one line item from capital outlay. And the reason being would
I will
be,
ask you to say that again.
yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. Repairs and maintenance equipment raised to 25,000 from 4,000. And repairs and maintenance building, raise that amount from 28 to 50. And the reason would be to cover any unforeseen expenditures related to the pool and possibly to the rest of the building, considering it is getting to be about 10 years old. We've got a lot of stuff falling apart. So I'm just kind of putting that money there to provide for any unforeseen expenditures.
Let me say this, as far as like the fields, I talked to a lot of players, parents, of course, I'm like, on the soccer field, and I know there was a lot of issues with, back in, I think it was last year before, I think, some of the soccer section had come together and wanted to do something like fertilizer fields, and there was a lot of issues with, I don't know if y'all say Spurs or whatever you call
Yes.
the Spurs that are out there on the field, and a lot of the kids are getting a lot of pictures of the kids, out there playing and getting them on the field. It's kind of bad.
Yeah, and I do have that in the recreation budget, whenever y'all want to discuss that, but yeah, we have actually had soil samples taken of all the fields, both Tate, Moultrie, and soccer complex. I've had those results back, and we do have a plan in place to start addressing that. We are going to be needing money that's going to go especially towards soccer. We're very aware of that, and also the irrigation will need to be fixed out there as well. Whenever you want to discuss recreation, we can do that, but that is in there for recreation. Because that's under a different department.
Yeah,
Go to recreation.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and address that. Basically, we do,
What page is that?
73. And the highlights in here quickly are an additional full-time park maintenance tech to assist in Elgin Park, the Middlemore Trail, and other parks as necessary. $35,000 for consultant to professionally prepare a 5-year Parks and Recreation master plan to guide future growth. I think we are ready for that at this point in time. $500,000 for Ellerslie Park to further development of that park by adding pavilions, restrooms, other pavilions, more playground areas, benches, shade structures, additional fencing, more dirt trails, and a trailhead on the south side funded by a state grant, a disc golf course, various picnic tables, grills, trash cans, directional signage, and landscaping material. Again, this will be phase 2 of Ellerslie Park. A new playground for Moultrie Park, various mowers and trailers, a new vehicle for the new position if it's approved, and some carryover from the previous year. So that is the highlight of the recreation part.
To kind of address the soccer fields or any of the fields, the first thing I wanted to do was to increase repairs and maintenance to 100,000 instead of the 75 that was proposed, and that is to do a comprehensive seed and fertilization program, especially the soccer complex. That's going to take a lot of time and a lot of money to get that back. Those fields are in very bad shape, and we're very aware of that. Because it just hasn't been done the past 4 years. We've had 4 years, it has not happened out there.
I see, because I had heard that there was the reason why they were told no not to come in from, what I'm saying, from the soccer ranking itself, they'd be able to help out, because they wanted to, kind of help the county come in, the part of the county to do
Yeah,
something.
I'll be working with the soccer association to do that, yeah, most definitely.
So there wasn't,
Now, soccer, we allowed them to come on a year ago to help them cut grass.
right, but a fertilization program that helped with that. I had heard that there was a program in place a couple of years ago, but it wasn't.
Nothing has been done to my knowledge. My park techs have said nothing has happened out there, so I don't know if the plan was put in place that wasn't followed. I have been in contact with Kelly Seed, who we used to work with several years ago with when John Magazine was the director, and that's when the fields looked probably their best. And I'm going back to them because we've had a good working relationship with them. I had the soil tested, they had given us a plan, and so we have just we had no fertilizer or grass seed has been bought in 4 years. So we
So
are
you just
paying
asked,
attention.
tell me what you said about the increase. It's not reflected in what we have.
No,
So you're asking for additional to what we've
just
got
$100,000.
And in what
It
area?
was
Repairs and maintenance site
site, yes ma'am,
from 75,000 to what?
to 100.
So when you and Randy were working on this budget, you didn't have that information at that time?
I didn't have that information at the time, and I didn't prepare this
Because
budget.
I don't
This
see it
was-
on your cuts, and I don't,
Right. This budget was prepared back in February, March, when the previous director was here. And then since then, there's been a transition. So there's a lot of lost information.
so repairs and
And there are different
maintenance,
priorities now.
you want to add 25,000.
Yes ma'am.
And what else did you say? Was there anything else on that?
I was just giving a reasoning explanation on that. I do have other things in the recreation budget, if that's what you're asking. Yes, ma'am. Under tech services, 521310, I would like to, add 2,500 there for the security alarm system at Ellerslie Park for the lodge and for the new maintenance building, which we have a lot of pricey equipment in, and would like to have that covered. And that was a quote given to me by Alex, so he recommended that highly, that we have that.
Is that an LTE-based alarm system? No, cell.
Yes.
Is that cell-based?
Yes, it is a cell back system.
Yeah, same company.
You want 6,000 amps? Yes, ma'am.
You want 2,500 more? Yes.
Also, after talking with my park techs, and I did include them in this budget talk, they feel we desperately need a tractor. We had one that we sent from Pate Park over to Ellerslie Park when it opened up, and it has not come back. Pate Park desperately needs and has to have this is a must-have according to my park techs, a tractor at Pate Park, and the price is about $24,000. I'm not exactly sure if that goes small equipment.
That's
Or
capital
capital,
item.
okay, then capital.
So that's an addition.
Yes, ma'am. And then the last item would be the mowers, under mowers and trailer. I think that's, is that capital as well? Or small equipment, excuse me, small equipment and recreation. I need that increased from 10,000 to 30,000 for 4 mowers we have to have. We had 2 mowers taken from Moultrie about 2 years ago, and taken out to, over to Ellerslie Park, and I need those, they were never repaired. We had actually had to turn them in, excuse me, and so they have not been replaced. It's been 2 years out that we are, been 2 mowers down at Moultrie, from what I'm understanding from my park techs. Ellerslie Park also needs 1 mower, and soccer needs an additional mower, so that would be the 4 mowers that I'm asking for instead of the 2 for 10,000. Or 1 for 10,000. So small equipment needs to increase from 10,000 to 30.
So that's about $73,000 that you cut, and then the other categories.
I would have to probably think, I mean, no, I'm gonna have to look and see, but
And contract labor would be inclusive in any kind of program, like from a city perspective or any organization. Is it gonna be a third party?
contract labor, no, for recreation, contract labor is the officials' fees that we pay. So that's not, where we're contracting out any additional work done on the fields.
It's separate.
But in answer to your question, I can look definitely and see.
There's not
I don't mind.
much, there's not much left.
Really, I don't want to, but, yes. Okay. Anything else? That was, I believe, all that I had. All right, thank you.
Page 43, community development. Let's see. There's really nothing new here. Continuation of the professional community planner. Just not much here.
Community development, the software licensing. What is that? What is that software for? What software is that?
The software,
Yeah.
it's for building permits, code enforcement, everything. And we did business license, it takes care of it all.
Have you looked in, have we just revisited GIS system?
No, that's something.
That's a whole different.
That's not me.
Well, I know, but I'm
That's
just
not me.
saying.
So, all different. GIS is a multiple department, type
I
thing.
just didn't know if y'all discussed it.
Oh, we discussed
We
it.
discussed it,
And
but-
we had a study done, but we just haven't implemented it due to lack of resources and lack of money for that specific project.
What is
It would be a huge, huge undertaking.
It is.
And very, would be very labor intensive also.
What does that cost? What is the option? What's the latest price?
To buy the equipment and the hardware is the inexpensive part. Buying the human resources to operate and manage that system, to go get original data. That'd be a very expensive proposition. Is it needed? It's needed. Better decision making, a lot more information.
It would help many departments.
Yes.
It would help EMS, it would help
911,
911 systems. I mean,
Sheriff's
it helps
office.
you.
Yeah.
Right, any first responders, it helps, it puts all of the addresses, puts everything into a software program where everything is laid out and where it gets. It's attendance, food, shared system.
And the biggest money there is implementing it, having somebody maintain it.
So would one person be sufficient to run it, manage it, put all the data in it? Or is it a multiple person job?
To get it up and running would be a huge task. This might be better outsourced to a private company that has all the resources that we could never afford.
To get it up and running?
To get up and running.
Have somebody just manage
And
it?
then maintenance would be a very big deal. Why have something if you're not going to maintain it and keep it up to date? So we talked about it for several years. We just never pulled the trigger.
Is that something we put down, maybe to discuss on the retreat? Just kind of look at it, kind of dive back into it, because either way you go, if we keep kicking it down the road, I mean, it's going to get more and more expensive, it's going to get more and more inclusive to how much work or how much legwork is going to be involved.
Is it capital improvement? Would it be under capital improvements? Would it be,
No, because it'd be more of a contract labor. to be more human resources, more so than equipment. The equipment, I think the hardware and the software is pretty inexpensive.
Yeah, it's just servers.
But when it comes to the manpower,
Collection of data is gonna be one thing.
yeah.
But it's gonna
We have a lot already, but there's still more to get.
And when you get to it, you gotta update it daily. Could one person do it? Barely, when it's up and running and fully implemented. That would be a good thing to outsource to a private company, for them to implement it and maintain it on our behalf.
And they pull that from a database. Most of those updates pull from a collective database. It's not something necessarily one person would have to do. In the GIS systems, they're not very familiar.
Except for our water and environment.
But that'd be as like as a kind of deal. Okay.
But is it worthy? Yes. Worthy. Does every other county have it 25 years ago? Yes.
Something for their 5-year plan.
It's a good 5-year plan. But it has been thought about, and a study was done in the last 2 years to probably recognize the need. But we just haven't gotten to it yet, because there's so many other needs.
So anything related to my department?
I had to bring that up.
I know, that's fine. One of the cuts that you'll notice is the 10% raise that I'm asking for my executive assistant. Due to the fact that we are now doing alcohol, we've actually already started doing, and I've actually had to send her to training for 2 classes already, plus I'll have to be sending her to more in the fall. It's a large undertaking. It's not like alcohol permits used to be. It is, and the reason I'm asking for that is that was not a duty that we had when we did the study for salaries and all. And I feel like it's due. I feel like it's warranted. She's already put a ton of work into it, and we've already been receiving applications, and it's going very smoothly. It actually incorporates into our program too, that we run our software. So, but the state has come down with a lot more tasking. You have to go to the website daily to make sure that things are in order. And we had a fiasco just Friday where we found out that some people were they were selling their share of the business, and we had to remind them that if you're selling your share, this new owner has to come on. It's just a matter of paperwork, but she had to sign up for GBI, she has to do with the sheriff's department, our department, and court services. So all those things are now on her back, and I would greatly appreciate it, and I think it's warranted, very much warranted. Any more questions? And that would only be $8,358 to add. Appreciate it. Anything else?
Page 45, the coroner. We heard from Coroner Weldon last workshop. Here's his official budget. It's pretty much status quo, except for maybe the last bullet point on page 45, which was discussed in the previous workshop.
That legislation, I know it did not pass this last time, on 2-year cycle of legislation. Is that the first year it's gone, and it will come back next year, or will it have to be revised next year for another 2-year cycle?
This is the first year that it actually,
This is the last year of the biennial, it'll start over.
it made
It'll have to
it
come back,
to,
it'll have to be reintroduced.
Most likely.
yes, it never made it out of being introduced.
Okay,
So-
okay, that was my question. Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment or two. The last meeting, Ms. Commissioner Andrews asked me how many hours did I work. And I said, well, average case is about 4 hours. But I'd like to elaborate on the reality for just a minute. Having facts and numbers always allows you to see the job better, and the coroner's job is not the typical job for anybody. You know, you can say, well, I've been elected 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and I serve that way for for 4 years. So we could add all those hours, but I'm always on call, is the bottom line of that. And we're talking about understanding why I would want to adopt that salary package that I mentioned. In calendar year 2019, there were a total of 101 calls that came to the coroner's office to respond to. Of those, I was actually involved with all of them because of signing death certificates, but I was directly involved with 75 of them. If I were paid based upon the state salary of $175 per case, that year I would have made $13,125, an additional $1,125 from what I was paid. In 2020, we had 131 calls. I was directly involved in 91 of them. That would have been a $15,925 pay if I was getting paid per call instead of the $12,000 a year. And in 21, we had 111 cases. In 2021, we had 111 cases. I was involved in 68 of them. I was having a couple of reasons to be out, medical reasons, so I wasn't involved in quite the same percentage. And I would have made $11,900, so I would have missed about $100 a month, $12,000 a year salary, which was set back in early 20s, 2002, or I forget the exact date, but it was prior to me that salary was set. I will say that my goal is to have somebody on a desk scene in less than an hour in the county from the time that we receive a call. So for the past few years, we've been able to meet that goal with the deputy coroners that I have. I receive all the calls. I look at where the location is. I've called the closest deputy, and I keep up with my guys pretty well. You know, I know I can't call this one on Sunday morning because he's preaching. But, you know, I say who can respond and who can be there the quickest and closest to get the case started. From there, I may, depending on the nature of the case, I may go myself too. So there's just things that I look at, how can I best serve our community in the job that they've asked me to do. In the last budget meeting, I was asked how many hours we work. I stated that, you know, better judgment is about the call. So how long does the call last? From the time I get a call to the time a standard natural death call is over, average 4 hours. You get, you go, you work, you wait, you go. Basically a 4-hour typical call. But I started thinking about it. I realized that I don't have a time frame. I just do what it takes to accomplish the job. I make sure that the families are served as I would want to be served in my time, so there's no time clock. As far as time spent following the things that are not included in that 4 hours, the time reviewing a deputy coroner's cases, and I review them all, signing the death certificates, filling out, sending subpoenas as needed, following up with GBI on cases, both meeting with the families or additional phone calls with them, looking up old records when somebody wants a copy of their father's investigation from 1994. So when I leave this meeting tonight, I'm going to go pull the records and find the autopsy report, if it's available, from 1994 to respond to this person that has sent me a request for the email. So that's an ongoing, happens 2 or 3 times a year. You don't have a time to pick. Quickly, I'd like to share a sample case. May 6, 2022. About 5:30 in the morning, I was called for my second call that night. When I left the house, I had no idea that I was going to end up spending all day on the case. And at 8 p.m., That night, after investigating, interviewing, testing items to prove the cause of death, did we find that it was a fentanyl overdose due to laced marijuana. From there, and I will say I've turned my part of the investigation over to law enforcement. And this is absolutely no reflection on our sheriff's department. They're the ones who pitched in and helped out because this was a city department, not the sheriff. So all part of putting everything together to help the sheriff do their job properly and help our community. And so it took me all day working after I'd already, I had a midnight call, got in bed at 2:30, back up at 5:30, and I got home at 8 o'clock that night. Those can happen real quick. In addition to that, we're currently investigating a sensitive case involving adult neglect that started on May 7th, and we're just now hitting the surface of that investigation. So a week later, we've been receiving phone calls, working on putting together. And tomorrow morning, I'll be sending out subpoenas to several doctors and medical institutes. In general, about 1/3 of all of our deaths are not natural. So that 4 hours that we're talking about, that's your beginning time frame. Then there's about 1/3 of them that can involve anywhere from a day, 2 days, whatever. We've been very fortunate. Thank you, Sheriff. We're very limited on our homicides and murder investigations. Those, thank goodness, we don't have to deal with but 1 or 2 of those a year. And I give a credit to our sheriff for doing that and helping make my job easier. We're very fortunate not to have a lot of child deaths, but there's a magic law that says anybody 17 and under, so 365 4 days and under, has to have a special child review processing. I'm part of that team. I have to involve my time, put together my reports, pull up all types of reports, put everything together and go to a meeting that lasts 2, 3, 4 hours, depending on what all they're doing to review any child death. So there's more to the job than just riding down the road and saying, hey, here's this. So to sum that up, it's my request and hope that the commission would consider the by population salary request and suggested salary scale, which the simple of it, we've got details of it, but as simple as the $35,000 a year salary plus benefits, so on and so forth. But I can leave a copy, but it would basically increase that. I would like to see y'all adopt it now and for the future. I know the coroner salary was looked at last year, and it's the same proposed pay scale is being looked at across the state. Had it gotten out of committee, we have very good confidence that the governor was going to sign it. He's been in support of this the whole time, but it's not been put in front of him to be able to sign it. So it's a reasonable bill that other counties, and I don't know a specific one, but I know that several others have adopted that. We said last year to wait and see if it gets signed by the governor. Well, it was tabled. I'm asking you to be proactive and to vote to adopt this bill and change the local law to this pay scale. Furthermore, I'm asking you to make the decision to adopt this salary bill and make it effective July the 1st, 22, until such time that it can be read into law as local legislation or as goes across the state. This bill in the salary scale does allow for growth in the county, and hopefully would remove any issues about any kind of salary, because it would include, as the county grows, population grows, it would grow. So I'm just asking if y'all to give great consideration to that and think about what you get.
Are there other counties that have increased the coroner's salary through local legislation?
There, I don't
Rather
know.
than through their commissioners,
Oh.
but through local.
I don't know who they are, it was 159 counties, 152 of them, I think, are under the coroner's, investigative system for death. The pay scale, and that's part of the problem, why we're trying, as a coroner's association, trying to make something go across the state. I've known some guys over the years, been doing this about 25 years, as far as deputy or coroner. I've known some guys who've worked for the year and maybe made $1,500 because of the call volume and because of the way the laws were. And they made them a little bit better, but you get a 6,000 population county, and they have just been hitting their minimums. So you can, last year I looked up the numbers and had them for Nancy, but it goes anywhere from here to here on salaries, depending on, they must have made additional local legislation or just said this is a minimum, and that's the way the law reads, is a minimum of it. Once you raise it up to that corner, it can't be reduced. And some people, it is their full-time job. There's some places that have, Muskogee County has full-time coroner and 3 or 4 deputy coroners full-time. They're all 50,000, which we don't want. And then there is county morgue that eventually we're going to need one. So if you see somewhere that wants a morgue in the backyard, flag that. Any other questions? Thanks for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
If we're ready to move on to page 47, the district attorney. This is basically no significant changes from the previous fiscal year. Status quo pretty much.
Did the new, I guess he's gonna be sworn in Friday, the newly appointed district attorney, has he looked at this budget?
I don't know. I know the previous one, the interim did. I don't know if the new one has any commissioner. We provided it to him. Oh, we did too, a couple weeks ago. So he didn't request it, I guess.
I'll keep his questions to see.
But I did not have it.
I was told he looked at it.
Page 49, emergency medical services. The big thing here is constructing a new EMS volunteer fire department facility in the Northwest Harris Business Park, along with construction administration of that new facility, and updating the EMS fee schedule, which is on page 171. So those are the big issues there. We're talking a little over $3 million increase from the previous fiscal year. On page 171, in the fee schedules, basically changing all these different costs. And the existing fee schedule is in the pocket to show the difference. The director's here to answer any questions. And the fee schedule update is basically, I believe, based on newer and more modern Medicare rates. I think that's the
Private. It was the last time it was changed.
We changed it about 2 or 3 years ago. As private pay insurances like Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield, as they increase their rates, our billing company will call us and say, well, you need to adjust your rate, so that we're not trying to leave them beat on the bottom. So if you've got insurance, we want to bill what the insurance will pay, so we can try to offset what it costs us. So she'll call
So
us.
this shows increase in Medicare and private insurance and private insurance.
It's an increase in everything, yes, ma'am. But Medicare and Medicaid are contractual. So like if you had Blue Cross and Blue Shield and we did an ALS level 2 transport, it would be like $1,600 one-time fee, we don't itemize, and $19 a mile one way. That same call, Medicare probably pays $475 for it, and we have to write off the difference. That's the contract we have to get in bed with the government, that's what we have no choice. Medicaid the same way. So it doesn't affect Medicare and Medicaid like it does private pay insurance. If they have a rider, like mutual on haul, they pay $100 above that $470, but in the grand scheme of things, it's going to pay half for a private pay plan. Our pay code right now, we're fortunate because our county, about 58% of our citizens have good insurance. So that's a good thing. We're only about 24% Medicare, 7% Medicaid. If you want low Medicaid, low Medicare numbers, you want high private pay, and that's what we have. So it makes sense to adjust this. If they're paying their premium, they're not having to pay the payment the insurance company is. We should get all we can get from the insurance company, try to offset the deficit.
And on page 51, you can see the rendering of what the new EMS volunteer fire department facility would look like. It's in design phase right now. The next one's page 52, the extension service. Again, no significant changes in the previous fiscal year. Steve Morgan's here to answer your questions, or to give hints on turf and ornamentals. I use them constantly. Okay, page 54, facility maintenance. The big issues here are we're having to increase our building maintenance expenses from the customer at $85,000 to $115,000. The cost of various supplies are increasing, so we have to increase our maintenance budget as well. Replacement utility truck, and the department director has requested salary increases for various folks, and he's here to answer those kind of questions.
Good evening. I'd like to go ahead and address the pay study, is what I wanted to address. That's the increased salary part. I wasn't here during the pay study, so I wasn't able to look at it, to review it, to do all that. Well, I've had time to review and to look and to make the adjustments that I feel like need to be made for my part. And I sent y'all a letter with that request as well as the county manager. And I'd just like to go over that with you. The first one that I'd like to look at is the assistant director. The assistant director, his responsibility is to take over when I'm absent. And the assistant director has done a very well job at doing that in my absence. But he's also, not only is that, but he's also there to help me with the employees up under me. He's to look over the other 3 employees that's under me, which is very crucial at this time, because all these projects that Mr. Randy is throwing at y'all, it falls under me. So I will be dealing with all these projects, courthouse, the northeast projection, solid waste, waterworks, Ellerslie Park. We've also picked up Mercer Medical. We're responsible for that building as well, all the maintenance and the landscaping and all that kind of stuff. And that's where his role is important, because I can't maintain trying to make sure these other employees are dispersed where they need to be, doing what they need to be. If I'm tied up in courthouse project, community center project, Ellerslie project, over at the northeast, which is all the way at the other end of the county. And I just feel like that he should have been rated as a 20, along with the other assistant director that was rated as a 20.
What was he rated as?
18. And also he's on call every other week.
So what kind of raise would go from 18 to a 20?
It would be counting the 5.5% COLA, the 1% longevity, and all the benefits, would be a $12,000 increase. All right, the next position that I addressed was one that I wanted to add when we started the pay study. And that was, I wanted to add a lead technician. And his responsibility also would be to oversee the tech that's at the jail and the prison. He's to oversee and help him in anything that he needs help with, anything like that. He will be responsible for all PMs that is on all HVAC, generators, equipment that we have, and all that. So he will be doing monthly PMs, quarterly PMs, annual PMs on this equipment. And he is also on call every other week. So I was wanting to add that position, and by adding that position, that would increase from the 12 that the original technician is, from a 12 to a 14, which is what all the other lead techs are. I didn't go above or anything, I just went wherever lead techs were, and that's what I addressed.
So are you saying add an additional one?
Yes, ma'am. It wouldn't be adding an additional employee, it's just the position needed to be added. I had the employees, I have 2 technicians, but one of them would be a lead tech, and he, like I said, his responsibilities, PMs and all that, and also HVAC.
Would be lead.
Yes, ma'am.
I got you.
Yes, ma'am. And that increase from the 12 to the 14, adding all that stuff I have said a while ago, would be $6,300. The position for the technician, the 12 was fine. I don't want to change that. But his main responsibilities are the jail and the prison. I have one tech that's all he does, maintains work at the jail and the prison. And then if he has some time in between, then of course he'll do some other work with us. But I'm not changing that one. But the last position I would like to address is my FAC4, which is, I don't know what we call it, but it's FAC4 in there. It's the one that does the cleaning of the courthouse, the other county buildings outside. he has the responsibility of also doing light maintenance work. Not, you know, like changing a light bulb or unstopping a toilet, or, you know, little things like that. And, but he also, is responsible for overseeing inmates in the courthouse setting, in the other county building settings where he's around the public, around elected officials and everything else. So he's in charge of them inmates as well. And I look back, and the lowest grade given to somebody that is in charge of inmates is a 10. So I would like to increase that one from a 8 to a 10, to give him the same equal opportunity that the others have that has inmates that work for them. Because any of the other ones that's in that grade 8 or grade 9 does not involve inmates. So I would like to I would like to change that grade from a grade 8 to a grade 10, which would give an increase of $8,400, which gives a total of $27,000 and say roughly $700. $700. That includes, yes, but that also, like I said, includes the 5.5 COLA, 1% longevity, and the benefits.
With all of those additional projects that we have going on, you didn't request an additional body, an additional person?
No, ma'am. Because most of the major projects are contracted out, and it would be my responsibility as director of facilities to oversee and maintain communication with those doing the work.
So you'd be the county's project manager?
So, yes. So I would actually be like, when we start here on the courthouse, I would actually be here at the courthouse overseeing what they're doing, make sure they're doing what we want. When they start the buildings or the waterworks or northwest, east, be there to make sure, to see what's going on, because in reality, when they get done with all these facilities they're building, we're gonna be responsible for them. Now, that's probably gonna be 2 years down the road, so 2 years down the road, then you'll see me come back and say, hey, I'm gonna need another employee, because we're maintaining way too many buildings on such a short staff.
Is that 27,000, is that included in the department requested? No, so it's an addition.
Yes, ma'am. Y'all have any questions? All right, I would really thank you for your listening and your consideration of changing these grades. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving along, 57, information technology. This is pretty much the same as last year, just continuing various internet services and software renewals and upgrades and firewall security. And the director's here to answer any questions and perhaps pitch a new idea.
What that is a request for an additional employee. After Randy balanced the budget, my extra employee did get cut. So I started thinking outside the box. Meriwether County has got a half-time employee And in speaking with him, he's subpar. So he's trying to get a better employee. And I said, maybe I can help because I need at least half-time help here, just so I can start maintaining some higher level rather than running help desk tickets, printers, my monitors out, keyboard fixes. So I started talking with him, and we've decided and come up with an idea. And I'm proposing this idea to you that we house financially an employee, full-time benefits. It's just going to help me sell the job. Selling a part-time IT tech job, forget it. I might as well just go stand on the roof and yell, and nobody's going to listen. Having a full-time position with salary and benefits enhances clientele to come and apply for us. Rather than us having a full-time employee, we're going to contract 20 of the hours out to Meriwether County to cover his part-time employee needs. So essentially, we're only going to be paying for half an employee.
And this is
That is the full amount that I've presented to you guys tonight, so you know what will be on the books. Because we're going to show, and have to show, a full-time employee. We're going to take half of that, contract with Meriwether County, and they will pay half of everything listed there for the employee.
Is that remote support, or is that on-site?
It's on-site help desk.
On both places?
Yes. And it will be a fluid job. If we have a special project coming up where we need all hands on deck for 3 days out of the week, I just call them up, hey, I'm gonna need them Monday through Wednesday. And then during that 40-hour work week, pay period, will float. If I had a full week of 40 hours, that means the next week, he's in Meriwether for 40 hours. So we'll get our time for the employee. We won't be cheating or get cheated. But this is a conceptual idea that, honestly, working with Randy, we came up with. That way we're not footing the bill for an entire employee.
So you said that frees you to do,
It's going to free me up to enhance our security, become more involved with training that we need to do. Software changes daily, sometimes hourly it feels like. It's going to allow me to make sure that my guys are trained as well, make sure that their training is up to snuff, make sure that we're crossing every T, dotting every I, keeping the bad actors out. Right now, between trying to manage that, managing my employee, and training, it's becoming a lot. So having somebody to just run help desk tickets, hey, I need somebody to help reset my password. That's a 15-minute, it's out of my day. So I have to stop what I'm thinking about, switch gears, change the password, go back to what I was doing. This way I can concentrate, focus, complete the task, and move on.
What's this transportation as far as going to Meriwether and working? Is that a personal vehicle, or is that like a county vehicle situation when he's traveling back and forth? Is he reporting here first and then going there? How would that work?
No, whatever the schedule that we have laid out, unless there's, extenuating circumstances, we don't pay for anybody to come to work. Nobody. Same way with this individual.
So,
unless he comes here and travels there in the middle of the day, then we have to pay his time. Because then he's come twice.
I just know, take jobs in super high demand. I know the engineers that I work with, just trying to get their market standards. You're not coming in at market standard just to get anybody, not from engineering. I'm not sure about the tech-based side of things, but it's.
I looked up, it is very competitive. I looked that up and talked to some of my cohorts, and that's what their entry-level help desk positions are at right now. And that's what I'm looking for, is just a competent help desk technician. I don't need anybody in the switches, I don't need anybody to run security. I need day-to-day help desk tickets. Keyboard, mouse replacement, my monitor's gone out. Okay, we'll schedule that. You know, whatever.
So this request would be the county side of what we're obligated to.
That's what we're gonna show on the books. We are contracting half of that that complete salary to Meriwether.
And get half of it back.
But what I'm saying, but no transportation, there's no mileage, fuel mileage or anything cost associated with it. So what we're saying is we're trying to find somebody that's going to split their time between two locations and freely give their own time and money.
Correct, you're gonna work here a full day, there a full day unless extenuating circumstances, and then we'll address that rarely if it comes up.
So you wouldn't have to pay mileage for them to go to work if they went to Maryland one day.
Right.
I'm just saying, trying to find somebody for that would still come out of pocket to be traveling. That's a high ask.
If we're splitting the day, yes, I can see that. But I'm not splitting the day. We may do 2 hours here, 2 hours there. It will be a fluid position. Days, excuse me.
Days, not hours.
Yes,
So 3 and 2, and next week 2 and 3.
2 and 3, correct.
And 4 and 1, and 1 and 4.
Yes, ma'am.
So basically, this is a compromise between, the IT director requested 2 full-times, I could have both, just before budget purposes. Is there a need? Yes. The county's getting more and more sophisticated. Animal control and solid waste, for example, went online this week. For the first time in ever, they have reliable high-speed internet. And we're gonna implement credit cards for both animal control and solid waste. And they have purchased software to keep all that humming and connected to finance for better accountability.
We've got 3 new facilities going up that we're putting infrastructure inside of those.
New waterworks, new EMS stations, new solid waste facilities, all requiring internet services and maintenance. So the county's growing in sophistication, GIS. This seems to be like a compromise to get where we need to be. But just hearing Alex and me talk, it just seems we need another full-time person. Just ourselves.
I agree, but I just think we're low on that. As far as
We can always-
I took an average of what Indeed and another, I can't remember off the top of my head, but Indeed was paying entry-level help desk.
So you look for entry level?
Entry-level help desk. Like I said, they've got to be computer competent enough to go change a mouse, put a monitor in, nothing high level.
Principal student to get
In addition, we're focusing this year, we haven't asked for any new projects or anything going on. We're gonna hone our skills, do a lot of training, do certificates, and just better ourselves to help the community. Any further questions? Thank you for your time.
Page 59 is the jail. One new capital item is a replacement locking system for the cell doors in the jail. And the sheriff is here to answer any questions the board may have.
You don't need locks for the jail.
Well, we turn loose as quick as we can. I'll answer any questions, if not, we'll move right along.
If everybody's going to jail, the sheriff's office is coming soon. So this is just the jail's portion. Go to the sheriff's office. That's on page 76. On the sheriff's budget, page 76 is, the highlights are 4 new full-time employees
Thanks, Howard Grove.
and some security cameras throughout the county. that's the highlights there. And then the sheriff's cars are in SPLOST too.
Of course, we can order them, we may not get them.
You did order them, you've got more?
Yes, ma'am, we have ordered them, but, and of course, we ain't got all the cars we ordered last year yet, so.
Any update on him or not yet?
Not yet. We're waiting on time to come across.
Somebody in America needs to start a chip company. You know we have the resources.
Our budget's pretty self-explanatory, but I'm here to answer any questions. The cameras were something that we thought of at the not last minute, but I mean, when I explained what we've done with some cameras that we have bought through a partnership with some companies, Randy thought it was a good idea to put some extra ones in there, and we can put them at the around the rec department and places like that, and the elderly place and places like that will have some high volume and some potential theft problems that we've already had, and we've solved because of our cameras already.
So this camera basically takes a picture of motion going by and a license plate.
Plate, vehicle description, everything. And it will retain it for a period of time. And it will also notify the deputy if it's a stolen vehicle from any area, if it's been reported stolen. And it goes straight to the vehicle, straight to the car.
Do there have to be notices posted that security
No.
cameras are in?
No, ma'am.
Have to be posted.
No, ma'am.
And if you look carefully, you can see the existing ones throughout the county.
We have 7 up already. I like to put about 13 because we got 13 entrances in the county. We can see everybody coming in here standing.
And what impressed me enough to put this in here was Jeff Culpepper's waterworks. The catalytic converters were stolen from the vehicles. I said, 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, well, they're gone. We'll never catch those folks. But within hours,
Yes.
the sheriff had somebody in custody that stole our converter. I'm saying, wow. So this is a direct cause and effect. I said, we need some more of those. And the sheriff said, Randy, you asked for it. I said, okay, here it is. I'll ask for it. I'll put it in his
They're
budget.
relatively, for what you get, they're only $2,500 a camera per year. $250 for the installation and everything, and then $2,500 a year. And they maintain them. That's maintenance and everything.
Oh, it's too good to be true.
And these ones that all tie-
It's
these ones
awesome.
that all tie together too, right?
Sir?
These ones that all tie together.
They all tie together. Once they're in and we have them, we can watch anybody's camera that's locked in. We can see all of Muskogee's, Russell counties, troops, Coweta counties. They can see ours, and we're locked into everybody's. So yes, it's
And
awesome.
Even individual subdivisions, like I said, if Coca Lake wanted to put them in.
If Coca Lake puts them in, if Piedmont puts them in, if a private company wants to put them in at their shop, we can tie into theirs and see that, yes.
So with these 4 additional deputies, how many does that give you? Not enough.
78, give or take. But we don't have them all hired. Even if we get those 4, we won't hire them all at once. It's getting difficult. In fact, we're 1 short now. We're 1 short now. And we got one leaving us the 1st of July, or the 1st of June. And we'll have.
So these positions, the positions will be there, and you'll just hire them as you need them or as you see
As we
fit,
can
or
find
find
them. As we
people.
can find them.
So even.
One will go to court services, 1 will go to investigations, and 2 will go on the road.
Questions?
And they're supposed to pay 61 manager's work. The first bullet point, the only bullet point in this budget is increase personnel benefits, 11,000. to have the chief magistrate court judge appoint the probate court judge as part-time magistrate to fill in as needed in accordance with state law.
And I know it's also in probate judges. I don't think I know enough, because it just seems like way too much money for somebody to be a substitute for you in case you have to be out. Or, it just seems like a lot, so perhaps I don't have all the details. But
Okay.
I'll need to help me get there, because I'm not there yet.
Right.
Sure know about the rest of them.
Well, for, I guess however long, since Judge Barrow passed away, I've been handling things by myself. Judge Lakes, I guess the past 2 years, we have backed each other up for no compensation. So any dockets, if he's needed me to handle, or because I'm on call 24/7, and my phone is my lifeline to the sheriff's office, to the deputies, any police officers. The code specifically, and we were talking about that earlier, says if the probate judge is appointed as a magistrate or a assistant magistrate, this is how much they get paid, which is like the 14, whatever, which is that more or the same than what we're asking? So regardless if I appoint him, that's what the salary is.
How much is it?
It's 14 something.
25.
No, see, I think,
25.
Miss Susan, I had half of that in my budget already for my previous, to have somebody be appointed. So I only needed the extra to meet the amount. His amount was to cover me to compensate me to help him out in his court.
Okay, so he's got 26.1 his salary.
Yeah, and that surprised me too, because
That
that's
was a
total
lot.
salary and benefits, because the base amount that's provided by statute is like $14,162.10. So it's impressive to me that it inflated that much, almost double, I guess, so that was a surprise. I'm not quite sure what all was added into that to come to that number, but the base amount by statute is right at 14,000. So that was,
The addition is 14,000?
no, that's the base amount that's allowed for by statute for whatever we cover.
Or if a probate judge is appointed regardless.
So I don't know
We
what,
didn't make that up,
Yeah,
that's just what's in there. And
so Chris might be able to be the one that could break down what the
Yeah,
extra.
add benefits to all that, and that drives up the cost significantly.
Yeah, I got that. I just want to know.
with the appointment of both of us, that ensures that if something happens to me, we're not scrambling. He's here to
Yeah,
help.
I get all of that. It
Okay.
just seemed like a lot
Right.
for, let's just say you're healthy all year, you take 2 weeks vacation, then that's a lot of money for him to maybe be your substitute for a couple of weeks. It just seems like a lot.
Well, and that,
And maybe I don't understand what I don't
well, and
understand.
that's what the statute calls for, because if he's appointed, he's gonna get that regardless.
Well,
That's just what's in there, and I don't know the answer to that, but.
I mean, I don't think there's a really good, just all-inclusive answer of saying, well, this is guaranteed the amount of number of hours that will be done to justify this.
Yeah.
It's a stab in the dark, I think, by the legislature, whether it took to set a certain amount based off of whatever made sense for the entire state, so it's there. One thing to keep in mind for elected officials, I think it was mentioned earlier by Porter, we don't have a vacation schedule, we don't have sick time, we are always on call, so whether I get a call in the middle of the night for a warrant, which would be one thing that I could assist.
I slept in the airport last night from New York, and I got 4 calls on my phone, texting, looking at my warrants, things like that. So, I mean, and the law allows for that wherever I'm at.
Yeah.
So
But you would
it
still
is,
get that call, and then you have to let him know
Well, we
well, no, at that point, we would work out
so
what,
during these days, you
Right.
would take it.
you know, him not being compensated, I'm not as free to just call him. I would be, because he would be able to help me, but I don't feel that way. And I feel like it's all here, so if I'm, not available, then yes, it would all come to me. But if this could be in place, then we would come up with something and everybody would know, that's what we were talking about earlier.
Right.
The word would be, well, Judge Webb's, out of town, Judge Lakes is gonna take care of it, or, vice versa.
Which is what we've done kind of just as a help a friend basis already. The things we've talked about so far as adding additional services for the county with this is that we could open up additional dockets. It may be that we could expand the number of dockets for things like traffic court or for civil hearings and magistrate things, so we wouldn't feel like, okay, I'm burdening Judge Webb by saying, hey, would you be able to do it for a traffic court date here to make it easier for people? Because we're ramping up tickets now. I see your sheriff's still back there. So we got that increasing. They need another person in the warrant division because civil filings are going up. You have dispossessories that are going up. All these different things as we grow are leading to more people needing services from the courts. This is to address that. And so we've talked about ways to add additional court time for each of our respective courts. But it's already come into play a few times. I think we're all, we like to pretend here, we're not all wearing masks, that we forgot about COVID, but being one of the early adopters in the county, it caused the courthouse to be shut down for a couple of weeks and everything. And so if that were to happen again for any particular reason, I know from personal experience across the state, we've had to plug in people in different courts to help, whether it's Rockdale County, where they did not have an associate appointed there. That probate judge was a newly appointed probate judge that went 2 or 3 weeks in the hospital, and we're covering just on an ad hoc basis to try to keep that court going. Courts as small as Upson have associates in their respective courts. It's all across the state. It's been a push from every class of court that's like ours, where it's basically one judge and you have associates, to appoint as many backups that you have so that you can continue to offer the services that are needed. So far as the amount, I can't speak to that other than that's just a statutory amount that's allotted for there.
And there's no statutory way to reduce, that a county could reduce that?
I would say there's
That
not.
That is the floor?
I would say
That's what the
exact
code states,
there
but I
may be
don't
a way for that. That might be
Maybe.
something that county attorney could look into. I don't want to speak that this is just an absolute, but I know that's what we've looked at. It's what ACCG suggested and said this is, just as a matter of fact, this is what you use, this is the schedule that you use. So it was on, there wasn't much discussion about that, but one would certainly not against looking into that if that's a cause for major concern.
And I'll be honest, obviously I need someone, and I've gone longer than I should without someone. Not that I don't feel like I've taken care of things or done things efficiently, but in order for it to work efficiently, and I needed someone, but I couldn't get 4 prospects that I had because of the whole retirement policy, being on retirement for Harris County. So I couldn't get that because then they would forfeit their salary, because I tried to make it as minimum as possible for what, Harris County would have to pay. But this has never been done before, until we instituted it. And I just think, I would feel a whole lot better, and I would feel like, we were able to efficiently serve the citizens because we are both here and able to cover both courts and do more. But
there's one difference with it too, is that if we use the model that we're talking about here, which other counties, Columbia is one where they have done this too, you can go about it through a statute where you would not necessarily have to incur the additional training costs that, where I would have to take the magistrate training and she would have to take the probate court training. If we use a particular statute that allows us to call upon the chief judge of another court within the county, we could go about it that way. That's another benefit that would not be as expensive with this that you potentially have to add on top of it that some other counties do. That's a roundabout way of saying it, but we've looked at it from that angle too. What's the most cost-effective way to make this happen? The other thing to keep in mind is that, obviously we're standing up here, we get along pretty well, but if for some reason she decides, what, this isn't working out, I need to name somebody else, she's free to do that. And as soon as that happens, it's not an incurring supplement that I keep on having for the duration of the term that I'm in office. And even if that were the case, I'm full goodwill. I'm not going to take anything that's not that I'm not doing the work for, so I would freely give that up. But this is a case where there's control by each of us respectively to where, okay, we need to look at something else, or totally say this isn't working out. As soon as that's done, then that salary is gone. It's not a recurring supplement again. It has to be where, like some other supplements for elected officials, once you do it, it stays in effect for the term of office. This would not have that tied to it.
So would we have to renew that every year?
That's part of the budget cycle, but for as long as there's someone appointed in that position.
And the appointment is yearly, yes. For this position, it is yearly. For mine.
There's a lot of benefits to it, being able to do it, keep it kind of in-house, we're familiar with each other, we're familiar with our processes. We've already used each other in different situations where, you know, either I'm in training, because our trainings don't coincide at the same time, thankfully, to where I can cover it. You can potentially make that a little bit more robust. Like right now, it's just kind of on an emergency basis. And since that has worked well, we've been comfortable kind of expanding that idea. And I know that she's ran into some issues with having people appointed for various reasons that she's already outlined. You know, we're on call all the time, it's just not, 8 to 5. But there's some situations where we're just not available, whether it's training, sickness, something else, even worse, God forbid. And that will be a way to keep the services going.
Right, without anybody having to scramble.
So there are additional training costs that we need to add also?
No, you wouldn't have to.
Not under this scenario right here, no. There is a method of having an officially appointed through the superior courts and whatnot, where that would trigger the additional training. There is a way to be able to do this on more of a temporary basis, where you have a more flexibility to be able to say, okay, well, I don't need these services anymore, they can stop. You don't incur the training costs, unless at some point the legislature catches up with that and says, you know what, we got you, we know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Do it this way, but for right now, that's not the case. I think that would be.
Would y'all need the training?
Well, I already contract with Waverly Hall on municipal court, so I've got the traffic side of it. I mean, and we do some training on mental health and magistrate for 1013s that I already do for him anyway.
I'm not gonna say that it's not
yeah, I'm not gonna say I wouldn't take it, but, and I'm not gonna do something that I don't know the answer. I'm not gonna make sure that someone knows the answer to give me. So, we're just saying that that's not an additional cost that has to be.
But there is the option to do that, to be
Yeah.
able to participate in each other's training, and there are situations where that makes sense.
Well, and the one fee that you pay for me at the beginning of the year for the training is like $375. I can go to every training, of course, there's a budget there for travel and all that, within magistrate court. And a lot of magistrate judges or probate judges or magistrate, and at these different trainings throughout the year, they have multiple classes for probate and magistrate. So that's really within I don't know about yours, but I know within my training that is there as well. So instead of just satisfying my 12-hour requirement,
So I just have one more question.
Okay.
I just want to know, what is the additional amount to you, and what is the additional amount to you?
I think that's outlined in the budget.
Because she's got 11 and he's got 26.
If I didn't
So all
already,
come together.
if I didn't already have the money for Judge Barrow 3 years ago, then I would have the same amount he's got. But because we never took it out, because I was gonna appoint someone, but just have not, that's why that amount is smaller on my end.
So what is take out the benefits, and what is the supplement? That's what I was.
The code section is clear on the supplement, 14,000.
It's 14,000.
It's a 14,000 supplement?
Yes.
So the supplement for both positions is 14,000 each.
Well, and explain that to me. I don't want to, I may sound dumb, I'm sorry. But why is there benefits? Why does that have to be added if I already have benefits as a magistrate judge?
As your salary goes up, there's more FICA, more retirement. It's a
Oh, all of
formula.
that.
It's a
Okay,
formula
gotcha.
based.
Okay,
So as salary goes up, all these other benefits go up, FICA. all
that's
that.
what you're talking about. Okay.
So I think
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
So it would be 14,000 each as a supplement, paid monthly, I would assume.
Yeah, I think that's the way that Chris had broken it down. The base, I think, is 14,162.10, and then you break it down into a bi-weekly basis is what you
So it is $1,166 a month.
that might make sense if it's tied into your overall, and that's how it increases it, I guess.
We'll double check those benefit amounts, but the salaries required by law, if the board approves this, will be $14,000 each, plus benefits paid monthly until the appointment runs out. In a nutshell.
I think that's accurate.
When the attorney says it's accurate, you know, it's good. Oh, but we can double check those benefit numbers.
Yeah.
But
It's
it's,
too high. But benefits are high.
well, with the 5.5% COLA, the 1% longevity, once you factor, you know, enhanced
But
retirement.
5% COLA would go in this 14.
You get this.
That would go with this. This
Probably
would
not.
get a
Probably not.
5%.
But I can have Chris look at that, those benefit calculations on top of the 14,000.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
And I don't have anything separate for probate because this was more or less, other than this right here, everything else that was proposed by Randy, I'm fine with. So if there's no other question about probate in general other than this. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So moving along, page 63 is non-departmental. This department is kind of catch-all. If we can't put it in any department, we put it here and we try to minimize the expenses in this department. But right now, it's various dues and fees expenses for River Valley Regional Commission and the Georgia Forestry Commission, as well as a contract with West Point to maintain the rights-of-way and the main entrances at the Northwest Harris Business Park. Rental of copiers and copy paper expenses were moved from this budget into the various departments, because now we have a way of tracking them. That's non-departmental. Page 65 is the prison. The only large item here is replace the control room's HVAC system, $5,100, $12,000 to replace 19 double-stack inmate lockers, and $18,000 for a replacement oven. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. The board's here to answer any questions.
On these boiler room pipes that were cut, how old are those boiler room pipes?
They're the
Are they
original pipe.
leaking? They're original pipe.
They're the
So
original
are
pipe.
they leaking? Or you just
I have
afraid
one
tomorrow they will be?
I have one leak in front of the laundry room right now.
Can it be repaired?
The repair, yes, it can be repaired, but we was trying to do the whole piping since we replaced the boards over the last few years, and just go ahead and knock it out. Because we did replace the boards, we had 4 boards to be replaced.
What happens if that pipe goes out?
Then we have to pay for it.
There's the,
Jamie?
what are the
I'm here.
consequences is what I'm
I
saying.
told you I always got your back.
So if
We had looked into repairing the pipe
Mm-hmm.
and to have
Is
the
it made
pipe
out of?
repaired,
Copper.
copper, and it's 3-inch copper. So,
you're not going to
in
replace
order-
3-inch concrete.
well, you can, but in order to repair that section would cost us like $8,000 and something dollars. But later on down the line, when you fix one leak, you put more pressure on another pipe. You're gonna get a leak here, you're gonna get a leak here, you're gonna get a leak here. So in our boiler room, everything's copper. That you got hot water running through. That's constantly eating away at your copper pipe. Now copper piping lasts a good while, but the building's been there, what, 20 years?
Yeah, 1999.
1999, so.
And that's the original
That's the
pipe?
original copper piping. Now, we've replaced the boilers,
Right.
but we never replaced the copper piping. And eventually, you're gonna have to replace the copper pipe, if not this year, next year.
And you know, we waited on the roof, and you know how that expensive that came. So the piping will probably be as expensive the next time we come around next year.
Right. So, the longer we wait to repair something, the more expensive it's gonna get. I mean, we're running into that now with the courthouse project. You know, if we'd have done this 4 years ago, we would probably be 50% cheaper than what we are right now. So, my suggestion is, if you can find it in the budget to have us to replace these copper piping, it would probably be beneficial, because copper is a material that is constantly going up in price.
So if we put it in the budget, could you wait as long as you possibly thought was feasible to replace them? And it might be that we wouldn't do it this year. You know what I'm saying? You have the
Yes,
money there just.
and that's correct. It
And
would
then
be
it-
feasible to put the money in there. That way, if something does happen to the copper piping, we have the money there to do what we need to do. But if
They'll
it
go
doesn't,
July 1 and bid it out.
right, and if it doesn't, then, you know, the money sits there. I mean, that's like my building budget. You know, I request a high amount of my building budget only because I make sure I prepare for ACs going out, you know, something, a major component breaking, you know, but that's just preparing for that. That doesn't mean that I'm gonna spend that, that just means I need to make sure the money's there when it happens. Because right now, I'm $35,000 over budget. One, because of the pricing, but two, because we've had like 6 or 7 ACs to go out. So, and one of the
What happens
major
when you
ones.
have a major leak in this? What shuts down? What,
The boiler system.
The boiler.
and what does that mean?
That means no hot water.
No hot water. Can't do laundry, because the laundry has to be done at a certain temperature. No hot water for the inmates when they come in, take a shower from work, any of that. And cannot use the dishwasher to wash the dishes for the day.
It also controls the cold water that's coming into the building. You would have to cut everything off in order to, but if we do it individually, we can isolate,
Right.
repair, open back up, isolate, repair, open back up. So, you know, it can be like a stage thing as you're working it. And like I said, the problem is 3-inch piping. So, of course, the county doesn't have the material or the tools to work on 3-inch copper. In order to buy tools, they're like 4,000 and
It's
something.
better to contract.
Yeah, they're like 4,000 and something dollars for just one tool. And then by the time you buy the fittings that got to go with that tool, you know, we're already spending $10,000 on something that we probably won't use but just that one time. So it's just a consideration that the longer we wait, probably the higher it's going to get. So, anything else?
You did a great job, Jim.
Thank you.
And plus, while the board's still here, on the agenda package at 6:30 is a proposal to increase the capacity of the prison by 4 more, which means additional state revenue, additional outsourcing revenue for those inmates, about $42,000. So if the board approves that, for a small investment of inmate lockers and inmate beds, bunk beds, for a small investment, we can recoup a lot of state funds and outsource some funds. So that could pay for a part of this. We're trying to make a little bit of money.
So there's space to increase by 4.
The max for, yes.
Without adding additional correctional officers or inmate medical or inmate food expenses.
That's correct.
So it's a really cheap investment for a good return on the investment.
Thank you.
The next is page 70, Public Works. The big thing here is $25,000 to prepare a 5-year road and bridge master plan to guide future growth. I think we're at that point now to determine what we need to do with all of our funding when it comes to bridge and road repairs. The annual LMIG resurfacing program, various pieces of equipment and trucks, 2 additional radar traffic signs to go with the one we already have, and some debt service. So not really much as compared to the previous year, but Mike Brown's here to answer any questions the board may have.
So on the cuts, it says 254,000 was eliminated for 2 replacement F-350 flatbed trucks. But on the highlights, it says 128,000 for 2 replacement flatbed trucks. That's a different truck, yes?
Yes. What's on page 70 was ordered this year, but hasn't come in yet. I think the director needs additional trucks on top of these.
That's correct.
But you recommend these other?
Yes.
These are the same trucks?
No, they're different. They're additional trucks.
Right. But
They're
we're talking about
replaced.
the same trucks that we're talking about are needed for addition, right?
Sir?
These are the same trucks we were talking about for needing for addition, right? That we got, that recommended to be cut.
Right.
Are we going to participate in that new federal bridge money that just came out, that just did webinars on this week?
Is it grant based? Do you think it's a competitive grants?
I didn't listen to the webinar yet.
I think that's competitive grants. And when it comes to competitive grants, it's using other manpower and resources to apply for those federal grants, all that red tape and paperwork and reports.
We're still under the same, constraints that the sheriff does, right? Whatever we order those vehicles, we're still seeing a long lead time.
Very long lead time. The ones we ordered this year, we ordered them last June, late June. They're not here yet, and we don't know when they're going to be here.
So we're basically allocating money for the trucks, not doing it for the purchase this year.
Correct.
So we're the same.
Yeah, it's in the same way. You order them, and they may not come until a year from now, 18 months, 24 months, or 3 months.
How would the proposed truck cuts put you, how would that be, as far as the degradation of you guys being able to fulfill your obligations?
As far as the trucks go?
Right.
Well, we've got 2 very old Chevrolets, old 7s, tons of miles, that's gonna be replacements for 2 of them. And then we have some old 12s with a lot of miles on them. Once we get them 4 gone and replaced, we're gonna be on the newer end, which keeps us out of Bobby's shop and on the road. And it's gonna have a lot of failure. As far as, we're rolling right now, we're making do. I would probably be asking for additional personnel, but I have no way to get them out. We've just got enough out now to go, and we go in small groups, crews, because we have traffic control and everything else when we do go out. So we're making it, and probably I'll try to ask for some additional personnel next year, maybe the year after, because we are growing significantly.
And I just want to say, I appreciate all the work you guys are doing for the research and with everything and everything else. It's looking good.
Well, thank you.
On the trucks, can I interject?
Yes.
But you gotta come up here.
You got to stand by here.
That's what I was about to ask. That's what I was about to ask.
You gotta hold my hand.
It's just,
I want to see that. Mike's got a couple of trucks that are in serious disrepair. We're basically repairing them constantly. When he sends a crew out and something's wrong with it, we bring it in, we repair it, hoping for the trucks to come in because we're still waiting on 2 from last year. So with the situation, I've been in touch with all our distributors where we order these trucks, and the situation we're having right now with the availability of them, I really think we need to get in line. Because if we don't get in line and we wait until next year, especially for his dump truck, our two main dump trucks leave our yard every day. They work every day, and they have a lot of miles, a lot the Mac, which is what you'd be replacing, it's nearly unusable. We try to sparingly send it out, because it is just so old and run out. And we wait another year on that truck, and then one of our mainline trucks breaks down, I mean, he's gonna be out of business.
So how much is, if we bought the dump truck, not the two flatbeds, how much is the dump truck?
Break it down. Yeah, it was less than 200, because the flatbed trucks, I believe, were around 40 apiece, when we were specking those out. 42, I think, is what we got last year. Let's see, 120.
The dump trucks are $150,000.
What do you see on average repairs on those trucks? Because I mean, if they're in the shop, not just, I guess, quantitative from the standpoint of what it's costing to repair the truck, but being without the truck, like, needing downtime costs money too, so.
And that's the thing, even if we don't do the flatbeds and we try to link those other trucks by, which I don't suggest, this is what's got us in the kind of the mess that we're in now. And we rectified a lot of it. When I came here 7.5 years ago, our fleet was in terrible condition. And we were, using worn out vehicles. Randy's got us out of that mess a lot, but we need to continue to get out of that mess. And one of them is that Mac, and two of them are those old 07 model pickup trucks that he's trying to use. They're just a constant calls for repair. And, they're just, we may send them out tomorrow and, the engine go out, and then you're not gonna spend $6,000 or $7,000 on a $4,000 truck. So we're really wasting our money by not going ahead and trying to replace those trucks. And especially the way that things are now, where we're not able to get them. We need to get in line and get the truck shipped all the same way. Like he said, he got his order in. That still doesn't mean we're gonna get them. And I think what's, happening with those is, they're building what they're gonna sell retail. We buy on such cheap state bid prices that I'm sure these dealers are saying, I need to put some whip ties and sell them to our retail customers instead of selling them to us and making 10%. I think is where we're running into our problems on that, is where, they don't want to sell these state bid trucks right now. Their lots are empty. They want to sell retail where they make money. This got us in a mess right now. We're 8 trucks behind from last year, as a county. And they have no delivery set for us. I talk with them about every 2 weeks to try to get some information, try to update this. But like we were talking about, try to be proactive and at least put it in there. Let's see if we can get those trucks ordered, because honestly, it'll probably be next year's budget before we get them.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, we'll be lucky to get the trucks we ordered last year in this fiscal year. So it'll probably be the next fiscal year before we get these vehicles.
What I'm hearing on the tandems is 2 years out. That's why I wasn't pressing it, but at the same time, if you don't get in line, like waiting a long line, if you sit over there and don't get in it, you're not in it.
We don't have 2 years left in our mainline dump trucks, and they really need big spares. So we need to try to go ahead and get ahead of this problem, because like I said, when those big dump trucks, they go out every day on jobs, and when they can't go out, we're out of business. It's smaller trucks just can't do those jobs, those F-750s. They do great for them smaller jobs, but his big trucks, we gotta have those. Our county's growing and growing and growing. We gotta support it in this growth. Agreed. I didn't mean to take it.
No, that's
I just wanted to make that point, because we really need to address these issues on the board.
I get it, Robbie, you're tired of our stuff in your shop.
It's costing us a lot of money. I mean, it really is. When you fix one of those, $150,000 to $200,000 pieces of equipment, nothing's cheap. It's not putting $150 short.
And right now, some of the older stuff, it's hard to get parts in, as well as getting new stuff. It's just the world we live in.
It's very difficult right now, but I think we need to be proactive on this so that we can keep this department moving. They stay busy every day. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you were, yes.
No, I was seeing if y'all had anything.
Any questions? I think we're good.
Thank you.
I guess we'll go ahead and adjourn this work session meeting and take a short break until 6:30. We'll start our regular meeting.